In my opinion, this episode is the most important episode that I am going to do, that I have done, in regard to this podcast as a whole. The reason this episode is so important is because it is going to ground everything, the moral force behind everything that we argue for in this podcast, from nonviolence to no king but Christ. Everything is grounded in this episode. So it's a really complex topic. But I'm going to do my best here to give you a really short synopsis, and hopefully you'll check out the whole episode. So Descartes is famous for this line, "I think, therefore I am," right? I know that I exist because I think. But, another question that we could ask is, well, okay, so Descartes, you are, but what does it mean to be? Like, what does that even mean? And so uh, maybe a second step we could take from Descartes would be, I exist, right? That's what Descartes concluded. I exist. Therefore, I act. So to be means that we exist. And when we exist, it means that we perform actions. So our purpose then as human beings is continued existence with purposed actions. And ultimately, that's what morality is. That's what moral systems are. How should your actions during your existence be directed? In this episode, before I get to a positive assertion of what I think a good grounding for morality is, I needed to first kind of undercut the popular uh, moral systems that are usually in view here. And so I addressed the three major systems that I think people incorporate, including Christians. Christians don't purposefully incorporate consequentialism a ton, but they do inadvertently, and there are some who adhere to consequentialism. But then there's also deontological ethics, and then there are virtue ethics. So in this episode, I discuss two problems that each of these systems tend to have. First, they are all arbitrary to a certain extent. Their grounding is arbitrary. And second, they're all egoistic in a sense, and they destroy this idea of other or of altruism. So just to give an example here, consequentialism is the easiest to pick on, right? So to use consequentialism as an example, this moral ethic essentially says that the ends justify the means, right? So it's okay to, it could be okay to murder people who are a drain on society. You can find consequentialist societies like that. Hitler's example would be a great example, right? We've got, we need a particular race, a particular um, robustness in our people, and therefore we can justify some of these evil things that we do. Whether that's killing people who are a drain on society, or whether that's forcing people to have children together. So, but that's arbitrary, right? Who gets to pick the end in mind, right? So while the ends might justify the means, who justifies the ends? It's arbitrary. And then in terms of the egoism, right? You think about in that type of society where somebody is a drain on society and it's going to hurt the group, and the group is identified as the positive good, then it's actually altruistic to look out for your own interests and the interest of your group to kill another person, to murder somebody, right? That becomes altruistic to look out for yourself and your group. So throughout this episode, I am going to dig more into all of those moral theories and show you how they exhibit arbitrariness as well as egoism. But I also then am going to explore what I think is a positive replacement, a system that can beat these other systems, that can actually provide you purpose and grounding, and true altruism. So I ground this moral theory in the resurrection. And that's because the resurrection provides us what we need. It provides us with a promise of continued existence and a grounded aim, because the resurrection is the thing that restores us and brings us back into unity with God. And this moral theory that I'm proposing, it isn't arbitrary, and it doesn't require us to ever sacrifice another person. It maintains this idea of true altruism. It's a system which allows for the avoidance of moral compromise and the refusal to sacrifice other. It's with this system in view that not only do we have hope for the future, but we have hope for the present, that we can maintain our true identities and do the right thing, never losing ourselves for some end that's deemed ultimate. But we can always do what's right, and we can always be faithful and have hope that, as King said, the arc of the universe is long, but it bends towards justice. So I hope that you will give this episode a listen. It is really deep. There's a lot of content there, but hopefully you can sift through it and chew on it. But like I said, it is important because if we're talking about pacifism, we're talking about nonviolence, we're talking about Christian anarchism, and doing all of these things that seem like losing strategies to a lot of people. To do those things, you need a grounded sense of identity and hope. And I believe that a discussion of this moral situation can help to begin you on that process of establishing that.